honestly, Becky, I literally started to cry, and I can feel it. I get emotional talking about it now. So if I can try and make one particular path that was blocked before a tiny little bit more open, I'm like, my work here is done. My work here is done.
Hi everyone, welcome to Teaming Up with Becky Sauerbrunn, brought to you by the Women's Game. I'm Becky, and this is a show where we meet people in and around the game of soccer, the leaders, the thinkers, the doers, and connect with who they are by talking about what they love and what they nerd out on. Today on the pod, we are teaming up with Rebecca Lowe, NBC's studio host for all things Premier League, legendary football reporter, and overall an incredibly lovely person. She's done field work for some of the biggest events in the world. She's covered the past 6 Olympic Games. She presents the Kentucky Derby every May and is host of the It's Called Soccer podcast alongside a carousel of retired pro footballers. Rebecca has led the charge of bringing English football to an American audience, transforming America's relationship with the sport completely, and doing so with charm, wit, and her sheer love for the beautiful game. I thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with Rebecca. As I take my own first steps into a sports broadcasting and media career, I am reminded how important representation is and how fortunate we are to have trailblazers like Rebecca leading the way for women in what is still a very male-dominated arena. You'll hear that her path to becoming NBC's Premier League studio host was littered with misogyny and harassment, and that negativity almost derailed her. It's a reminder that we often don't know what people have gone through to get to where they are, and if people are willing to share those stories and to share their scars, we'd be really wise to listen up. All right, everybody, here's my conversation with Rebecca Lowe. Rebecca, welcome to Teaming Up. Thank you so much for being here. You've mentioned before that your work-life balance is, pun intended, always a work in progress. You live in Northern California. You work in Stamford, Connecticut. Which end of the US are you coming to us from today?
First of all, thank you for having me. I come to you from home. So Thursdays, is it Thursday? Yes, Thursdays. I'm at home. Thursday tends to be my big prep day. I mean, to be honest, Becky, every day is a prep day in this job. But Thursday is like really at the computer, at the laptop, all the pens and papers, all my different highlighter pens, everything everywhere. That's Thursday. And then I fly to work on a Friday. So you're right. It is a constant work in progress. I do think I have finally found a little bit of a rhythm. I've just about, I think, got it down.
It's just been 12 years, right?
Just 12 years. Just 12 years. I know. It's the sake of me sometimes. People do think I'm mad, and I understand why people think I'm mad that I live in Northern California. But for anyone who lives in California, and I'm biased because I think Northern California is even more beautiful because it has the seasons and all of that.
Hot take.
I've spent a lot of time in Southern California. It's beautiful, but Northern is like, I don't know, something about it, bit of a gem.
I cannot wait to talk to you about the commute, but I do have to say I have been just a fan of yours for so long. 1, because we do share a name. 2, because you've accomplished so much in the sport. And 3, because of your impact on the sport in the US in particular. It's so enjoyable to turn on the television and see you command the desk every Premier League weekend. And as someone who is only 10 games into her broadcasting career, I have to say it is very difficult to watch my film back. And I'm trying to watch it back kind of like how I did as a soccer player. You break it down, you just can get better, and you know you can. So rookie to vet, does it ever get easier watching yourself on TV?
It does, but not at your stage. So first of all, congrats being 10 episodes. Yeah, you might have a little bit of a way to go before it gets easier. I would say right at the beginning of my career, it was like almost, I couldn't stomach it at all. I would force myself to do it because I would have to make a show reel to try and get another job. And so I had to sit there and like cut everything together. So I'd have to sit, but I absolutely hated seeing myself and I hated hearing my voice. I was like, this is who's giving you a job? I mean, it was just so bad. And then I kind of came to America and it got a little bit easier because when I moved to NBC, I wanted to keep improving every week so much. And we also got sent emails every Sunday night and Saturday night with the show on it. So it was so easy to watch. So I started to do it. And then I sort of came away from it a little bit when social media started, because you are just with social media, you see, you're kind of bombarded with it. If you're, whether you do a podcast or you do a show that clips everything up and puts it out on your, I follow NBC Sports Soccer on social media. I can't help but see myself when I go onto my Instagram. So that in a way, you're so exposed to yourself that makes it a little bit easier because you kind of You just get used to it. So my advice is, don't worry. It's totally normal to absolutely hate yourself, to be quite honest. Totally normal. And then as the months and years go by, it will start to get easier. But I would say the podcast I do now, I make myself listen to it, but I don't enjoy it. I absolutely don't enjoy listening to it because it is me. And I'm like, well, you sound like an idiot. And I'm so highly critical of, we all are, of ourselves. And you as an athlete, absolutely. So super highly critical of yourself, I'm sure. And that can just be quite an uncomfortable place to be. Because you're not doing it to nobody, you're doing it to the public. It's very similar actually to being an athlete, I suppose. You make a mistake and you're making a mistake to so many people and then it's embarrassing, you know? So it's not easy, but I would say it's probably quite useful.
Okay, enough. Okay, I need to stop asking you these types of questions. I do want to go back to kind of chapter 1. Where your love for football started. And you grew up in Ealing, a town in West London, in a family of Crystal Palace fans. Your father would take you and your brother Alex to Selhurst Parks to watch matches. And you've said that you felt out of place as a young girl in a crowd full of rowdy, rollicking fans. And despite an intimidating environment, you still found a love for the game and for Crystal Palace. Was it the football or the shared experience with your father and brother that drew you in and made you such a staunch supporter?
That's a good question. I think it was probably both, but actually at the time I would have just, if you'd asked the 9-year-old, 10-year-old me, I'd have said it's just the football, because I don't think at that age you are consciously able to say, oh, like aware enough to be like, oh, this is nice quality time with my dad and brother. Like you just don't think like that when you're a child. On reflection, that was probably a subliminal subconscious thing that was going on, like what a fun family outing. Okay. And also my parents got divorced around the same time as my dad started taking me, so it did definitely become my dad. And my brother departed and went to be a West Ham fan quite quickly, so it ended up just being me and my dad time quite a lot. I know, don't even ask, that was a disaster, but fair play to him, he's still a West Ham fan, so fair play. So it became like a real time that I got to spend with my dad, and then my dad and my brother would do like cricket things for their kind of quality time. So I think, again, I never, even when I was 16 and in the car with my dad going to the game, I never was like, oh, this is quality time. You just don't think like that as a kid. So I would say it was the football. And I would also say it was the shared community of being at the ground that I'd never witnessed and experienced in my life. This like 20,000 fans all cheering for the same thing. And the songs and the chants and the smells, everything about going to proper football, I call it. Selhurst Park in the 90s was proper football. It wasn't pretty, it was not many wins, but it was proper, authentic. And so I think it was the football that captured me and the atmosphere.
As you grew up, you realized that you could make a career out of that love and passion for football. In November 2002, you entered and won a talent search with BBC TV to become a football reporter. You were chosen from a field of over 600 applicants, standing out to the network without their knowledge that reporting is kind of in your blood. Your father, Chris Lowe, is a retired BBC News presenter. You could have used the Nepo baby card, but you intentionally did not add that to your application. And it just sounds like you have a really sweet relationship with your dad. Did he inspire you to go into broadcasting after college, or did your career choice come solely from your passion for football?
It's really funny because I won that competition, Becky, but I only entered the competition. When I think back now, a friend of mine gave me the leaflet and said, oh, look, you like soccer, because like nobody else did in 2002 as a female. You like soccer, you should do this. And I wanted to be an actress. That was always what I wanted to be. So the idea of being on TV, I was like, well, that could be a next best thing. Like if I'm not an actress, I could be a TV presenter. Yeah, that sounds like similar-ish. So I was like, well, I'll give it a go because it's a bit unusual. I'm a bit unusual with my love of soccer. I was 21 at this point. So up until that stage, I'd never given it one thought. I'd watched my dad read the news, every week on the TV and on the radio my entire childhood. My mum was an actress before she had me. So that was always in my blood. But I never looked at my dad and thought I want to do that, partly because it was news. And I knew I definitely am not bright enough to do the news. I mean, that you have to be like seriously bright for that. In fact, when I was at the BBC, the head of the BBC News brought me in one day and said, we're thinking we'd like you to go from sport to news. And we'll start you off with the overnight shift. And don't worry, like not much is going on, just like a few world wars. I'm just like, oh my God, like absolutely not. And he's like, no, everyone would like love to do this. Everybody wants to be a newsreader. I'm absolutely not me. No thanks. Keep me to the football. That's where I feel safe. But because I was so exposed to television through him, and I would go to work with him on occasion during my teenage years, I did sort of pick up the vibe a little bit. And so it was definitely something probably in the back of my mind that I thought, well, if I don't do acting, maybe I could do TV. So then when I applied for that competition, I never thought I'd win it in a million years. When I won it, I was like, well, I'll just do it because it's a 6-month prize. The prize was 6 months as a reporter at the BBC. So I thought I'll just do it for 6 months. It'll look great on the CV, great on the resume. And then I'll go back to being an actress. But life has a funny way of like throwing your lifelong plans in the bin. These plans I'd had since I was 6 years old to be an actress. This 6 months at the BBC, I was like, oh, maybe I can do this. That's interesting. Okay, I'll do this. And then I just kind of gave up on being an actress and stuck to it, because once you get in the BBC or in NBC or ABC or any of these big media companies, once you're through the door, you can't leave because you'll never get back in. You know, that it's all about, and I talk to young girls all the time who are trying to get into sports broadcasting. And I just say to them, I don't care how you get in. Go and make the coffee. It doesn't matter. Go work in the just get in the building. Once you're in the building, everything becomes easier. So I knew I'm not looking a gift horse in the mouth here. I'm not going to leave the BBC. I'm in now. I've got to make a go of it. So that's kind of how it happened.
Well, I mean, you've really blossomed as a reporter for BBC. In addition to the studio work, the network sent you pitch side to report for huge tournaments like the Women's FA Cup Finals, the 2005 Women's Euro. And as exciting as these career opportunities were, you've said that it was difficult to be a reporter back then. You told E! News earlier this summer that as a female reporter in England, you were subject to catcalling and abusive chanting, saying in those days, some men didn't see it as a game for females to be anywhere near. Clearly, this inexcusable behavior didn't deter you from your incredible career in football. But what do you remember feeling when you saw that ugly side of the game for the first time?
Well, you know what, Becky, it nearly did actually deter me, because the year before NBC phoned to offer me the job, I had basically decided to leave the industry. I'd done 10 years. And part of it was, not all of it, but part of it was what you just talked about there. I was getting fed up with the constant abuse that was turning into online abuse as well, because Twitter had just started, and I went on Twitter for a few months and then I came off it because I couldn't cope with the abuse. At the time I was working for ESPN UK, and I was the sideline reporter for the Premier League games every week. And they did a thing, and I'm not sure it was the best idea in the world, but they did a thing where they put me at the front of the tunnel. So, in the Premier League, you have the two teams that line up in the tunnel, and then you have the referee in front of them, and then they get a go sign and they all leave, right? So I was put in front of the referee. So it was me, referee, and then the two captains from either team, and then the whole team behind them, okay, in a tunnel. And there's a camera in front of me, and I'm holding the ball, and they cut to me live, and I'm supposed to give a stat about what's about to happen. Liverpool, Arsenal's coming up, Liverpool best defense, Arsenal best attack, what's going to give. Really short. And then I would turn, I'd give the ball to the referee, and the referee would lead the players out. The abuse that I got on Twitter for being the person in the tunnel. How dare she be holding up the game? How dare she think she's so amazing she should hold the ball? Honestly, and let me tell you, it was not easy being in that tunnel. A female in that environment shouldn't be in that environment. And there were times where I would be at Tottenham's old stadium, White Hart Lane, and it was notorious that if I needed to go to the bathroom, I had to be escorted, because that they genuinely thought, and on my little workstation where I did my job was in this interview room next to the tunnel. So it's just off the tunnel. So you've got the dressing rooms, and then you've got the interview room. And if I need the bathroom, the guy would have to walk me past the dressing rooms to the bathroom, wait for me outside the toilet, and then walk me back, because they genuinely thought I might just go in the dressing room and just talk to the players, because I was a woman in a man's area and I wasn't to be trusted. The fact there wasn't even a female toilet makes you want to cry. So there was loads and loads of things that were happening, not to mention the constant, no game went by without abuse from the fans towards me. Forget the football. If I'm just standing there trying to do my job, and it doesn't matter what level, I worked at the 5th level of English football, and I worked at the Premier League level of English football, and I got it from everyone. And it wasn't a personal thing, it was just because I was a female. Now, I think it's got a bit better because there are just more females. So in the end, you just have to go, in the end, people just have to just realize that this is the new norm. There are going to be women on the field. There are going to be women in the dressing room. It's okay, guys. Nothing else is going to change about your football. It's just a female. So it's a bit better now. But in those days, yeah, it was rough, and it almost made me leave. I just wanted to get out of the stadium, which is such a shame.
That is a shame. Was there a piece of advice or a person that motivated you to keep going? No, because the weirdest thing, Becky, to be honest with you, was that no one thought it was weird. So I told this story before, but I was at the Emirates Stadium for Arsenal against Leeds in an FA Cup. I think it was 5th round tie. I was pitch side with my two ex-pros, Martin Keown and Robbie Savage, and we had a desk, and we were sitting, don't ask me why ESPN did this, but they put me in front of the away fans, which were Leeds fans. And if anyone knows anything about the Premier League,
or football in England, Leeds fans are tough, and away from home, even more so, okay? 6,000 Leeds fans. Here we are sitting there facing the Leeds fans with the pitch behind us. Big FA Cup game under the lights in the evening. The abuse was so bad that I was getting text messages from people at home because it was going through the microphones. While I'm on air trying to conduct the show, they're chanting things at me, sexual things at me. I remember Robbie Savage put a tweet out that night saying, like, she did really well because that was crazy. And that was literally the limit of anyone saying anything. Can you imagine the entire night through now, if a woman was subjected to, does she take it up the you know what, is what they were chanting at me over and over again. I mean, that was just one, so many nasty chants at me. Can you imagine if that happened now? There will be an investigation, an FA investigation. The Premier League will be on it. The club would have to answer questions. I went back to the television broadcast trucks in Emirates Stadium, back to my bosses, back to my colleagues. Everyone heard it, but no one cared. It was like, and so therefore by proxy, I just didn't make a fuss because there was zero people to make a fuss to. And I suppose I just thought, what I should have done was made a massive complaint, made a massive thing about it. But the world in 2012, as this was not ready for me to make a big song and dance about getting sexual abuse from the fans. So I didn't. So I shut up. And so nobody gave me any advice because nobody seemed to think it was bad, which is like crazy.
Unbelievable. Yeah. I am so sorry that you had to go through that. I hope that everything changed for the better when you got a call from NBC in early 2013 that offered you the opportunity to be the lead studio host for the launch of the network's Premier League coverage. You moved across the Atlantic, and now, 12 years later, you're still leading the studio team to the most memorable, informative, and exciting coverage for English football in the US. And your show has connected Premier League superfans across the country. You've corralled casual sports fans into the football fandom, and you've completely transformed the way that American audiences enjoy the game. And that is no small feat. How does it feel to have the trust of American fans to talk about the Prem every weekend?
Well, thank you. That's so nice to hear that there's been an impact. And I think, how does it feel? I mean, what an honor. What an honor to be able to bring to such an incredible country that is definitely ready and waiting for it. And they were in 2013, and they are even more now. The greatest, in my opinion, league in the world. I mean, that is beyond my wildest dreams. And you're right. My life did get markedly better when I got that phone call because it was everything I wanted. It was a studio job out of the abuse in the stadiums. And it was also a chance at a new chapter in my life in a country which I fell in love with years before. I went to a high school in Pennsylvania in my gap year when I was 17 or 18, and I fell in love with America. And so to be able to do both those things was incredibly exciting. And so now, as we fast forward 12 years and I sort of see the impact that it's had, I don't take it for granted. And I think when I meet the fans and they sort of share these stories with me about how their Saturday and Sunday mornings have been with us, for years, and their family feels like it's part of our family, and it does. And to be in people's living rooms, Becky, and be a part of their weekend, not for 10 minutes, but for flipping hours on end every Saturday and Sunday, is like, what an honor that is to be part of like American families' weekends. And I've had so many anecdotal stories that people have told me about how, it's just their routine. They turn it on, they get their breakfast, they sit with their coffee, their kids, even the teenagers get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and come down on the sofa, and it becomes like this lovely family event. And I'm sort of honored to be a little bit a part of that. So I've used the word honored a lot, and that is genuinely how I feel.
Soccer, I feel like, is described as a very simple game. You shoot, you pass, you score, but explaining the nuance and subtlety that goes into why a play worked in one situation and not in another is actually pretty complex. And you've found a way to simplify it while also not talking down to the audience. And I've found that making those complex ideas seem simple is very difficult, and it takes a lot of preparation and just a foundational knowledge of how teams want to play and how players fit into that style. And we've talked a little bit about your prep, but how much are you putting in for your 10-hour broadcasting days?
A lot, Becky, a lot. When I finished talking to you this morning, as I said at the beginning, I really get down with the prep. So today's prep is really more stats based. Plus I write a little bit of the top of the show. So on the whole, the show is unscripted, because how can you possibly script the Premier League? It just is crazy. But I will script like the first 90 seconds or so just to set up the show. So I'll do a bit of work on that, and I will do all my stats and make sure I've got all of that laid out. But the real prep that you're talking about, the nuanced prep, is the prep that I do every other day. And there is not a moment when I am by myself. If I have my child with me, I don't do this. But as long as I'm by myself during the week when he's at school and I'm driving or I'm doing cooking or whatever, I have either a podcast on, and I have about 7 or 8 that I just have to listen to every single week. So that's probably at least 10 hours right there of opinions, of breakdown, of nuance, exactly what you're talking about. Or I have in between any of those Talk Sport Radio, which is, funnily enough, the radio station that I was working at when I won the competition for the BBC all those years ago, and it's still going strong. And it's Talk Sport, but they focus mainly on football and the Premier League. So the soundtrack to my week is ex-pros usually, and some journalists giving opinion and explaining things, so that when I go into my show on a Saturday and a Sunday, I am brimming with questions of my own that come off the back of what I've listened to and also what I've read, because obviously I have The Athletic and I have The Times and I have The Telegraph, all of which I read every single day. So really it comes from never stopping prepping ever. I never listen to music. I mean, if I turn the radio on and listen to music, or I put on a song, I feel guilty. I should be listening. Yeah, I should be listening to soccer. And I'm okay with that in this part of my life. Maybe in the future, music will become more. But on the whole, unless it's like I'm fully done for the night and we're having dinner outside, we put some music on maybe. Or so if I'm with my husband, I do. But I don't listen to anything that isn't soccer.
I mean, just hosting a show is a whole other beast than just being on the desk and being an analyst. And just watching the people that have hosted the studio shows that I've been on, I'm like so amazed and impressed, because I'm like, you've got the producers talking in your ear, you're trying to facilitate conversation. Like it's a whole other beast. So kudos to you.
Thank you. It is. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It is. And I absolutely love every minute of it. That is my happy place. When that red light goes on and they go, cue Rebecca, just that there. I don't know why. Live as well. Like, I'm not great at recorded TV, because if you're recording what's supposed to be live, it can end up funny enough, because of all podcasts, like right now, we're recorded. Podcasts are fine, but TV, maybe it's something about the visual. I don't know. I just like it to be live.
I wish I felt like that, but who knows? I'll give myself some time and some grace.
Yes, do.
You are an access point for the women's fans around the sport. You're an integral part of the analysis, asking the analysts the questions that get to the why the game is unfolding the way it is. And like we discussed earlier, this is a historically misogynistic sport that wasn't founded with the intention of being inclusive, but it is hopefully changing for the better. And women like you are directly involved in connecting fans with the game, are to thank. Has there ever been a specific moment at any point in your career that made you really feel the impact that you have on the sport, especially for girls and women?
Yeah, I'm lucky enough, Becky, to say quite a few. And it tends to be when I meet people out and about, and it's always the mum or the dad. And it actually makes me a bit emotional to talk about it. But I remember the first time it happened was at the Boston Fan Fest. And a mum came up to me with her daughter, who was about 11, who had come to the Fan Fest to be there, to be part of it, and to see us all. And in fact, I think it was my security or my producer said to me, there's a young girl that really wants to meet you. And I was like, yeah, of course. And so her mum and her came up, and her mum said, my daughter wants to play soccer, but if she can't play soccer, she wants to do what you do. And before you came on, this is years ago, she said, before you came on, she didn't have that ambition. She didn't have that aim. And now she does, because she's like, I just want to do what Rebecca does. And honestly, Becky, I literally started to cry. And I can feel it. I get emotional talking about it now. And I'm so lucky that that's literally been a conversation I've had for years. And you know how old I am? Because when I went to maybe Nashville Fan Fest, a young lady came up to me. It was Nashville, because she works in Nashville. And she was working as the sort of announcer at the stadium for the Major League Soccer team. And she was, young, early 20s, but she had obviously watched me since she was about 12. And she basically now got to that point where she was working in the game. And she said, so much of it's down to you, and I look up to you. And I'm like, just to have any kind of impact on young girls. When I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, nothing in this world was easy, and still, unfortunately, a lot is not easy. So if I can try and make one particular path that was blocked before a tiny little bit more open, I'm like, my work here is done.
My hope is that women in and around the men's game and the women's game in England in general have garnered more respect and recognition over the years, especially as the WSL and the English women's team have found success in the last several years.
Yeah.
So how, as women in sports media, do we keep making these strides in the men's game?
Well, I think there's lots of answers, to that. One of the answers I would say is to be good enough. And I know that sounds a little bit odd, but what I don't want is to flood the men's game with women just to flood the men's game with women. Because those people, those young girls, are then going to be looking up to, if they're not good enough, I should say, if they're not good enough. A meritocracy still is really important. And with a meritocracy, it might take longer, Becky, to get women to make strides in the men's game. It might take longer because you have to sift out and get the best ones. But if you just give jobs to women in and around the men's game because they're women and you're trying to find equality, which is noble, but it's actually wrong. Because if you do that, and I have seen it happen, unfortunately, if they're not good enough, it then takes the whole movement backwards. So I would say women who are coming up and wanting to get into sports broadcasting, just one part of the men's game, just work hard. Just look to constantly improve and do better and be better and work your socks off to be, when you go in for a job alongside a man, be better than him. Get the job because you're better than him. Don't get the job because you're a woman. And then, well, I'm a woman, so I have a little bit of leeway. No. Everyone's got to be treated equally. So that the impression left on those watching and that next generation coming up doesn't look at a woman and think, oh gosh, she's not very good, but I suppose it's good to have a woman in a man's game. No, they've got to be really good. So just be really good. I suppose that for me is one of the big parts. Women don't want charity. We don't need charity. We are unfortunately at a standing start. Men have had everything for so many years. We all know that. Lots more chances, lots more opportunities. But women don't just want to be given them. We want to be given them because we're good enough, which of course we are. So let the men and the women who are running these companies and these whether it's broadcast companies or marketing or whatever it is around the men's game, let those people, those executives, please know that you don't have to hire a woman because she's a woman. Just go and find the best woman for the job.
When you talk about having women in the decision-making rooms, that is key to just broadening the minds of the decision makers to even have the idea of having women apply and letting them get a foot into the door. And yeah, I think you do need to be very good. I think we still need that opportunity to get our foot into the door at times.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that does come from those decision makers. So it's a little bit of a cycle, isn't it? Of like, well, how do we get the decision makers in the room?
Right.
They have to be really good as well. But you also have to hope that society is moving forward enough so that the person who is hiring the decision maker, because there's always somebody hiring the decision maker, is not from 1972. And I think that is basically going to happen as the years go by. I always use my stepson as an example. He's 28 now. At the beginning of my career, he was a teenager and he was just starting to kind of see women in the game. And he didn't find it weird. I never heard him say anything. He wouldn't even comment on it. Now he's 28. Okay, he's not at the level of a decision maker. He's not in his 40s or 50s yet. But we just got to be a bit patient because my stepson, Johnny, will get to 45. And his generation will get to 45. And that generation that didn't think anything weird about women in football 30 years ago will then make decisions. So we have still got some way to go because we are still making some mistakes. But I have faith that the generations, as they go on, will start to make the right decisions based on the fact that they're just more educated and more open-minded. And it's just the right thing to do.
The show avoids making kind of the unexpected clickbaity rants that you can often see in other shows. And instead, your audience is made to feel like the set is part of their living room, like you said, and you guys are sitting on the couch, just offering up your honest takes on the match. And a huge factor for that, I really feel like, comes from your friendship and rapport with your team of analysts. You've got former UK-based footballers Robbie Mustoe and Robbie Earle, and former U.S. men's national team goalkeeper Tim Howard. For anyone who has seen your show, whether they're the fans that wake up at 6 a.m. to watch Premier League mornings every weekend, or the more casual fans who get to see your funniest moments make the rounds on social media, the four of you never fail to entertain. How did you develop that chemistry with the lads?
Good recruitment by NBC, to be honest. I have worked with people down the years who are quite difficult, just like lots of people work with people that are quite difficult. And I tell you, sitting in a studio from 6 a.m. on a Saturday till 3:30 p.m. and then the same on a Sunday, if you don't like somebody or they're difficult, that is not fun. That really is not fun. And this show would have broken up a long time ago if that was the case. They're just wonderful people, number one. And they all have their different quirks, and I just love them. I just absolutely love them. We didn't ever do anything purposeful to create a bond or chemistry. It just came from reps, basically. We were with each other. I think it helped that Robbie and I, we were beginning something. So when NBC won the Premier League, it really was the beginning of the coverage, because before that, although I know there were some games on Fox and ESPN, it was a bit here, it was a bit there. This was suddenly the chance, the moment to launch this. And we've been together since day one. So I think that instantly bonded us, sort of like, oh my God, this is a big deal. We've got to do okay. But really it comes down to the fact that they're just great people, and they're fun and funny. And honestly, I enjoy it every single weekend. And, you know, Robbie Musto and I are like sister and brother. Sometimes we have little arguments and we just make up straight away. It's so funny. And Robbie Earl's like the dad of the place. Like he's the chillest, most chill guy ever. And Tim's just hilarious.
Like you mentioned earlier, you are regularly going from opposite sides of the country, living in Northern California, just outside of San Fran, but you work at NBC's sports headquarters in Connecticut. And so you're flying there every Friday, you work through the weekend, then you fly back on Sunday nights to always be home for Monday morning school drop-off with your son, Teddy. Talk about the longest weekly commute ever. But you said your family loves it on the West Coast. You don't want to uproot the fam just because of your job. As someone who just retired from a career where the main requirement was traveling almost every weekend to play a match, I admire the grind, but there's really nothing like pulling up to your house after being away. You make a coffee or a tea, in your case, in your kitchen with like your people around you. I greet my partner and I like push him out of the way, and I find my cats. What are the first things that you do when you get home that just fill your heart up?
Same thing. The cats are normally in bed by then, but the dog is waiting for me. And amazingly, my dog, we have a dog called Gus, who's a black and white English sheepdog. And he, you know, they're amazing, these dogs, because he obviously knows it's me, because any other car that would come up at like 9 p.m. on a Sunday night, he would bark like crazy. But he must know it's me, because he doesn't bark. He just waits at the door looking at me, waiting to get out of the car. I know. So big love to the dog, first of all. Often, fingers crossed, Teddy is I don't want him to be in bed on a Sunday night when I come home, because I want to be able to see him. But I do want him to go to bed on a Sunday night by 9 p.m. because he's got school the next day. So depending what time it is, if my husband's already gone to bed, bless him, he always says, right, I'm going to sleep in the spare room on a Sunday night so that you can come in, you can unpack, because I'm one of those people, Becky, that I have to unpack immediately. And I don't take a lot with me, because I actually have a suitcase in the hotel in Connecticut with everything in it. But what I do take is sort of like pajamas and gym kit and stuff like that, you know. So I need to come back, unpack all that, like take off whatever makeup is still on my face from 4 o'clock that morning, and just like decompress for a little bit. So he will leave the bedroom, like he's so sweet, he leaves like a water on the side, puts my pajamas out, pulls the covers back. So it's like, I know, bless him. So it's like straight away ready to get in. But for me, that moment you're talking about is the Monday morning. So once I'm in and I'm unpacked and I go straight to bed, when I wake up on a Monday morning, I'm like the only person in the world that loves Monday mornings, because they're like my Friday nights. Monday mornings, yeah. I'm like, I'm done for the week. This is amazing. So there's nothing better than getting up early, getting a few laundry loads on, getting everything in place, checking what I need to get from the supermarket, checking the fridge, make Teddy's packed lunch, make myself a cup of tea, like just have a moment. And I always on a Monday, take that cup of tea outside. We have a lovely view where we live, because we're kind of in the country a bit. And I just sort of take a breath of like, yeah, that flight last night was annoying, but it's worth it for this. And so cup of tea, love with the dog, get unpacked quickly, and just so I'm fully straight away settled straight back in as soon as my little boy wakes up on a Monday morning. It's as though I've never been away.
It sounds like Teddy is a budding soccer star. On your Instagram, there's some snippets of you surprising him at games or practicing with him in the driveway. And clearly soccer is a strong bond between the two of you. I can't imagine how difficult it is to say goodbye to him on Fridays, fly to Connecticut for your job. To achieve the balance of putting your children first while following your own dreams seems like a near impossible undertaking. What I can imagine is that you make an incredible effort to be there for Teddy every second that you are back home in California, and you're never too tired to be a soccer mom. And you're an example of how it's possible for moms to have a strong career while loving and supporting their children. What do you hope Teddy learns from your efforts of being a great mom while still chasing your dream?
It's really hard. I think I want him to realize that for women, they don't just have to be one thing. I want him to understand the females in his world as he gets older don't have to just be a career person. They don't have to just be a mum. They don't have to just be one thing. They are allowed to have other facets to their life. And as much as I love him to the moon and back, I want him to realize that I'm his mum, but I am also me. And me is somebody who wants to work and has a career and wants to be successful, to give him a great life and to live a great life. And I think that that's okay. Now, there isn't anyone out there in the world telling me that it's okay to do what I'm doing and that, or it's not okay. And well, I'm sure there are lots of people with their opinions, but I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh God, I just wonder whether, being a working mum is okay in the long run. All I have to look back on is my childhood, and my mum is a working mum and I love her to bits. She's my absolute world. So I never for 1 second think, oh, she worked when I grew up. I wish she'd been at home every day. In fact, that she probably would have driven me mad if she was at home every day when I was coming home from school and she was like, how was maths class? Like, oh my God, she wasn't there. She would come back a couple of hours later. I wasn't like, oh, where's my mum? But I just respected that's what she did. So I think I just want him to see that women are able to do a lot of things. It's not always easy if you do choose to be a number of things, but that you can choose to be a number of things. You just got to be really organized. I think it would be a sad world if women had to do what we had to do in the 1950s. Of course, there are lots of women who want to do that. And I have lots of great friends. That's their choice. And there are lots of days I wish I was more like them because it feels easy. But then when I look at them, I think, oh, actually, that would not be easy. And I'm definitely not built to be a stay-at-home mum as much as some days I wish I was.
I also had a very working mom. She was an American history teacher her entire career. I fully plan on being a working mom. And you saying that you don't have people saying, what you're doing is right or wrong. I will be that person to tell you, like, you are an inspiration to me. And I certainly hope that I can find that work-life balance that you are finding and still finding, but like, you are an inspiration to me. And I fully plan on staying in the soccer world and bringing a little boy into it and helping him navigate all of this. You and the entire Premier League team at NBC have truly helped to reshape the typical American sports fan's view on soccer, and the fandom and interest in soccer from that inaugural season of Premier League coverage back in 2013 to now seems like it's grown tenfold. And right now is the perfect time to introduce even more people to the game because the Men's World Cup is coming back to the US next June. What's your message for the new soccer fans, people coming to this game with the wide-eyed joy that you had as a kid watching Crystal Palace? What do you want them to know about the heartbreak and the late nights and the glory of being a soccer fan?
I want them to know that it's the greatest game in the world. And the reason the whole world virtually thinks that is that they can't all be wrong, right? The world cannot all be wrong. I know America has come late to it and they have their own sports and nothing will beat the NFL, but I truly believe, not in my lifetime, but probably not far off, once I'm dead and gone, soccer will be the number 2 sport in this country. It just will be. So get on the bandwagon now because it's going to be massive. It's all starting and has started really in the last 20 odd years, or probably I would say since obviously 1994 and then 1999. But now it feels like there's a gathering speed. There is definitely a gathering speed. Next summer is going to help. The Premier League helps every single week. Major League Soccer, there are some bumps in the road in some areas that I would love to see change, but that is also, you can't deny it, doing way better than it was 25 years ago. So, and then of course you've got the women who are just superstars all the time. So virtually. I do think that it's a situation of, guys, it's not niche anymore. It's not weird. It's not a bit like, oh, you like soccer? It's a little crazy, a little left field. Like, oh, you got to go over there with the soccer people, weirdos. No, we're talking mainstream. This is mainstream. Get on board because you are going to have the ride of your life. Find a domestic team, find a team in a league, get behind the US men's national team next summer or whichever country you originate from if you want to do that, and enjoy it because it will take you. I always call it a soap opera. It's like a soap opera that never ends and that every single episode that goes by, you want to watch the next one. It's like a bingeable show on Netflix. I think the Premier League, it might as well be, to be honest. It's there for everybody. It is the world's game for a reason.
Our audience can, of course, find you on NBC covering all things Premier League. But is there anything you want to say to potential Prem fans on why they should root for Crystal Palace?
Oh my gosh. Well, why would you not? I think is really the question. if you like a team that never wins anything but has just recently won 2 things for the first time in 164 years, and therefore we are basking in the glow of just silverware everywhere we look, then that would be Crystal Palace. I think it's a proper football club, like I talked about when I went. It's got a great heritage and history of always being the underdog, but having great moments. If you want joy every week, go for Liverpool, right? Go for Arsenal, go for somebody else. But if you want, if you want to learn a bit of resilience, if you want your kids to learn that life's not fair, all right, and it's not fun, but then every 5 years, or in Palace's way, every 164 years, you get a moment that will blow your world apart, Crystal Palace, the team for you. We won nothing my whole life. In May, 3 months ago, I went to the FA Cup final with Teddy and Paul, and I had the 3rd best day of my life. Giving birth, getting married, and then the FA Cup final. I mean, it's just not even. I mean, they are 3 so ahead of anything else, and I still get chills. I'm getting them right now talking about it. It was peak joy. You don't get that in a lot of things. And by the way, if you're a Liverpool fan and you win every week, or you're a Man City fan and you win the league every year, you ain't ever getting peak joy. You're just getting joy. I want peak joy, Becky, and that's what Palace will give you once every century.
Wow, what an elevator pitch.
Right?
Okay,
God.
Rebecca, thank you so much for being here. This is so wonderful. Since the idea of teaming up came from a little thing called the Nerd Squad, we like to end our show by asking our guests, what are you nerding out on?
Since I became a citizen, and because my child is now in elementary school and he's starting to learn about American history and things, I decided it was about time that I read, because I'm a big reader, that I read some sort of classic American books. So I've literally done a Google about a year and a half ago of what are the sort of 10 books I should read now that I'm an American citizen. And some of them are a little bit of a slow burn, I'm not going to lie. So I'm sort of slowly making my way through. But I have read 2 books that, you see, over here, it's a different syllabus. And I need to know a bit about this, partly because I'm a citizen, it's my country now, partly because my kid's going to do it, so I need to know about it. So I have read I Know Why the Cage Birds Sing for the first time. I'd never read that book by Maya Angelou before, so I've read that. I've read a John Steinbeck book called Travels with Charlie, which I think he has lots of others as well, but that was the one that came up on the list. So I've got those 2. I've got books like Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison and Chesapeake by James Michener on my list. And I have a whole list, by the way, I could go through it. But my aim and my nerding out is get to know America a bit more, understand more about the society and about the culture and about the history, so that I can feel like my citizenship is resting, nicely on my shoulders, and I know a little bit about everything that's gone on in this country. I think it's really, really important. So that's what I'm nerding out on.
Oh, I love that. That just fills my heart with so much joy. Rebecca, thank you so much for coming on, teaming up with Becky Sauerbrunn. I really appreciate it.
I loved it, every minute of it. Thank you, Becky. What an honor, and good luck with the pod.
Listening to Rebecca's reading list made me really nostalgic for my English literature classes, and I love how she wants to grow her understanding of the American experience through reading. She clearly has found a home here in the US with her family, a career that she loves and is very good at, and an unwavering love for the game that I think American audiences both appreciate and respect. I hope when we all see her at the desk on Saturday mornings, we feel a bit more connected to her and her story. I'm thankful she shared some trade secrets with me, and I will think back fondly on our conversation as I listen to a soccer podcast and take my pound of makeup off after a day of talking footy. This week, I've been nerding out on a song, and it's a song from my youth. I've been in a podcast in the car phase for a while now, and one day I just thought I'd change it up, and I chose 90s country. That's the music that I grew up with. Long car rides with my dad, to soccer tournaments, or to a fishing trip at the lake. And you know those songs that you hear after so many years, and it just takes you back to a very specific time and place? That type of song came on for me, and it was Diamond Rio's How Your Love Makes Me Feel. Check out the YouTube video. It's kind of amazing. Now I've just been listening to 90s country, just trying to find more songs that just take me back. And it's been really fun just sitting in all that nostalgia. Let us know what you're nerding out about right now. Email us at teamingup@meninblazers.com and join our nerd squad. Our quirky community is growing, and we're so glad to have you along for the journey. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back with more next week.